Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. This guy right here is Evil Mike, and of course I got a review for you today. We're going to be talking about from Image Comics. This is Kaya issue number 3. It is art written and designed by Wes Craig, colors by Jason Wordie, and then letters by AndWorld Design. And this is the cover C, the Spawn variant. I've been picking all these up. I'm not really reading Spawn, but I do love Spawn. And I think it's a cool idea that they're just featuring these on the cover. But to catch you up, it's basically Kaya, and she is tasked to take her brother to this long lost like stronghold. Her brother being Jin. They started the journey and they were kind of in a bad way, and then they end up catching up with one of Kaya's friends. She happens to be Seth, a member of the lizard people, and ever since then they've been kind of traveling with his herd. Zohan is the one who's leading them, and he's kind of the bad guy. But let's get into it. That's basically where we are. They're basically hunting this big creature called the Magron. We don't know what the Magron looks like or whatever, but it's supposedly this giant creature that it's really hard to kill, and they're hoping to kill it and then sell it, and after that they're supposed to be like setting ways from the lizard people. But right now that's where we're at. Before we get started, please like, comment, subscribe. That does help this channel, you know. Let me know what you think about this review down below. Okay, let's get into it. Alright, so where we left off from the last issue, we basically came across this like farm town, and as soon as they got there, you'll see there's like all these like dead, they call them ox, but they basically have been, this farmer, he tells a tale that there's a monster that comes every night, and basically like once a night he kills an ox and then leaves. He's been doing it so long that it's killed all these different ox, and he's down to his very last one. Zohan, Kaya, Seth, Jin, and a guy named Muska they're basically like, you know, kind of not settling here. They're trying to move on, but the farmer starts asking for help. They kind of get curious and think this might be the Magron. So Zohan does end up like saying that they'll help, but he requires the last ox for payment. All the other like lizard people and everything, including like Jin, they kind of freak out like, why you want the last but Kaya agrees. But the way Kaya agrees is they're going to use it as bait, kind of Jurassic Park style. They got it chained up to a pole, and they're digging this trench. Supposedly when the Magron comes, they can easily defeat it. Basically while this is going on and all the other lizard people are preparing the trap, there's two conversations that go down basically, and they've kind of showed in the previous issues, but basically Jin is kind of hounding Seth because Seth is already, he's in love with Kaya, but at the same time he's already arranged to be married as soon as the lizard people get to where they're going. And Jin knows about this, and he keeps confronting Seth to tell his sister the truth. And at this point Seth hasn't, and at this point he does promise that he will, like as soon as they kill the Magron and get to the next location, he will reveal to Kaya. But there is this other thing where Seth is kind of confused on which romantic path to travel, because Kaya, the way he sees it, Kaya kind of magically came back into his life, so it's kind of a sign, and he tells Jin as much. The other conversation is kind of between Zohan and an elder, Muska, and it's the same conversation from the previous the issue 2, where Zohan is trying to convince Muska that once they get to this Gorgon Bay, they're going to raid it instead of being nice with them. The queen wants them to be nice. They want there to be this peace between the different tribes, and Zohan's got different plans or whatever. They're basically posted up at nighttime with the trap all revealed and everything. During the middle of them waiting, Zohan kind of mentions that his gold spear is going to get the creature right here in the neck. Um, Kaya kind of like, she starts mentioning that he's supposed to follow the plan, and they had this whole like routine set up for the monster to come. Eventually, as they're like talking, and Kaya's like, look, I don't care how you kill it or how we kill it, as long as I get my share of what's promised. And as soon as this conversation goes down, the ox starts like mooing like crazy. You can see down here. But the creature does show up. Now it is kind of dark, but they mention that he has two heads, and you can see there's two eyes. But you do right there. But they do mention he's like got the body of a spider. He kind of looks like a crab, and then two heads. As soon as they see the creature, that's when Zohan kind of takes off, and he throws his spear like he had mentioned. Kaya's like, no, you fool, you're doing it too early, because the beast has not gotten to the trap. He is able to spear the creature, but it just kind of like wounds it, and the creature ends up running off. At this point, most of the lizard people are like, oh, that's it, let's go, and I mean, it's the middle of the night, stuff like that. And Kaya, on the other hand, is like, now you're going to have to track it back to its lair. Zohan's like, oh, and Kaya's like, yeah, let's go. And she, who's coming with me, kind of thing. Everybody ends up going, and then they do end up tracking it down to this hole that leads to a different cavern. As soon as they get down there, they realize what kind of danger they're really in, because this thing has all these holes and burrows all over them, and the location that they come out for, he's kind of like waiting for him. And as soon as he does, he attacks. I'll show you. He attacks Zohan, and it ends up cutting him pretty badly, where he's like freaking out. His kind of lieutenant, we'll call him that, Muska, is like, no, you're okay, man, let's keep going. There's all kind of chaos, but basically this thing keeps coming out of different holes. Eventually it does, and it tries to grab Muska now that he tries to grab Zohan now that he's already wounded. During that, grab or whatever, Muska does, sacrifice his own life to save Zohan, and he's taken off. As the spider creature, the Magron, goes down a different tunnel. Zohan gets in this like warrior rage now that Muska has sacrificed himself, and basically, Zohan runs after him. As this happened, Kaya's like, we need to collapse some of these tunnels. It'll make it a lot easier to kill him. The thing comes back for another round and ends up going after Seth, and Seth kind of defends himself. Kaya does end up punching him with her magical arm, and it basically strikes one of the faces, and as she does so, she gets striked in return. She kind of tells everybody that she's okay, that it was just a scratch or whatever. Seth is finally like, then, you mentioned we need to collapse some tunnels. He ends up like harpooning, using like a spear and some rope, and harpoons up to one of the taller caverns up top, waits for this thing to come out. As soon as it does, he basically harpoons it down and then lassos it and starts riding it. He lifts up both of its heads, and you can see like that it does have this weak spot that Zohan was kind of right, because that's where he was supposed to be aiming for, but he hit it like kind of all on the side, but impartial, because Kaya kind of altered his, but basically with his head raised up, and I thought she was going to use some kind of spear, but basically she jumps in all superhero-ish to punch it. She does punch it, and the next thing we see, and I don't understand what's really going on, but basically it flips back over to Zohan. I guess Zohan sees this bright light, and he's like, what the heck? And then after that, they just show him at the front of the cavern, like the first time when they went into the cavern. So I don't know if he ran all the way out or it teleported him. I'm kind of at a blank on what happened, and that's the end of the book. There's no hint at a cover. There's no hey, next time on Kaya. But that is where this issue leaves us off at. This book was fantastic. I mean, it keeps getting better. The art, the progression of the story, it gives you these little tidbits, in between. Not only that, but it is, really nice to read like a family-friendly story that doesn't have like a whole lot of cuss words or, just gratuitous, grotesque, needless violence, that kind of thing. I do love that stuff, of course, but it's good for our younger readers and people that have kids and stuff and want to share a really dope, cool story. I don't know, but hey, that's my review. Those are my thoughts. Let me know down below what you're thinking of Kaya. I am loving it so far. I'm so glad I jumped on it. It's on at issue 3, so if you have not got Kaya, I highly suggest picking up on it, especially if you enjoy this review and the images being shown. There is a little bit I left out. It looks like we might get to find out what that's about in the next issue, but hey, that's my review. I will see y'all guys later. I might pump out one more before the night's over, but that's what I got for you. Bah!